everybody, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Gia. I'm a 25-year-old lady who lives in my mom's basement, and I am famously a woman who does not buy books. I don't. These bookshelves are not very well stocked. There's a mix of things going on. Also, I just changed it. You could see a bit of a monochromatic theme going on. That's like my Hobbit shelf. And then you have the blue shelf, and then that's like the gold shelf, and then below that is most of my academic books that I still have. My library is a mix of books that I bought like a long time ago when I was in college. I say a long time ago like it was forever. I was in college from 2015 to 2019. Let's just put it that way. So I sort of built my personal library when I was in freshman and sophomore year of college, so 2015 to 2016, and I bought all the books that I read that I loved, that I wanted personal copies of, but I have not since reread them. They've just been like there as keepsakes, so I don't really have the heart to get rid of them. Some of them are also books of a series that I started but never finished, so I just kept buying the sequels, and then I had the whole series and then I just never got to them. See the Percy Jackson shelf up there and the Cassandra Clare shelf down there, which I feel kind of icky about Cassie Clare these days, but I've spent a lot of money on her books, so I think I'm going to read them before I get rid of them if I decide to. As a result of my financial insecurity, a la living in my mother's basement for the past year and a half, I have sworn off buying books. They were a big part of my financial downfall, that and Pokemon cards. Because I would just blow money on these collectible items and then they would just lay around. And before I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, this was a really big way that I funneled money into a bonfire, essentially. So I have like a bunch of Pokemon cards right there that I'll open for my birthday stream. But other than that, I don't typically buy them. It's just like I'll buy 5 packs to make me feel better, and then I save them up and then open them all at once kind of thing. But yeah, I am a knick-knack bitch. I am a maximalist bitch. However, I have this thing where I get older but just never wiser, a la anti-hero. I don't buy books anymore just because I am finding more joy in learning what I'm saving, and I have nowhere to put them, and I move a lot. So I have decided to unhaul some of the books that I have collected over the years that I either am not interested in reading anymore, like I got them in the discount bin at Ollie's or at Barnes and Noble or something, or they are academic books that I had to buy for class that I am not going to read again. But I when I looked over them, all the ones that I remember, I do remember what I got from them, so I'll be able to kind of give you guys a little teaching moment. So I'm getting rid of a total of 16 books, the first of them being Wizard's First Rule by Terry Goodkind. I believe that I got this so in my undergraduate institution, there was like a used bookstore textbook place that was right off campus that all of us used to go to, and they had a section that was to the side that was for all used books, where they were all like $1 or $2. And I think I picked this up there, so I got it for about $1 back then. This was written in like 1994. So before I decided to get rid of it, because I don't really like these mass market paperbacks, I looked this up on Goodreads, and it had kind of okay sort of reviews, and I believe it had over 4 stars as an average rating. But the more negative and critical reviews I saw were from women, which was a super huge red flag for me. The vibe I was getting from these reviews from other women was that the love interest was not set up very well, and that she didn't really have a personality. She was just kind of there. It sounded like, okay, I went through a button poetry phase. I don't know if you follow that channel on YouTube, but from Melissa Rosado Olivia, that poem where she said that F. Scott Fitzgerald and Ernest Hemingway were geniuses for turning women into question marks. That was the vibe I was getting from this when I was reading other reviews from women, and that was an immediate ick. I also looked up the author, and I found out that he got a lot of his writing inspiration from Anne Rind. Ew, disgusting. Immediately no. Absolutely not. Not happening. I'm not DNA. Listen, I know I just said that I was going to read this book this year, but I'm getting rid of my paperback copy of Throne of Glass. Do you want to know why? Do you want to know why? I was going to get up and show you, but I was extremely washed out. Do you see that right there? right there, that book on the bottom of the stack on the blue shelf, that is a hardcover collector's edition of Throne of Glass that I bought at Target a million years ago. I got this during my I'm gonna buy used books through Amazon for Black Friday as a gift to myself phase. It's still in excellent condition, by the way. Like, if I had been collecting paperbacks, I would, but I am more of a hardcover person, so I am getting rid of that. I also got this during my I'm going to buy used books for Black Friday as a gift to myself phase, and it's a paperback copy of A Court of Thorns and Roses. I just read this, and I want to buy a, like, hardcover set of all of the books because I legitimately enjoy them, and they're going to go right there. I have a space. I curated a space just for Sarah J. Marathon on my shelves. So something that you need to know about me is that I'm originally from the South, and in the South, we have this warehouse store called Ollie's, and it's basically where third-party copies of name brand things go to die. But also, they do have some name brand stuff, but they have a really big book section in the front of the store. A really large chunk of it is Christian fiction or Christian romance or the Bible, etc. But sometimes they have some lesser-known fantasy authors in there. I actually got a massive hardcover of like the Percy Jackson Gods paper, like picture book. I got that there for like $3 once. But Son of the Black Sword by Larry Correia, I picked up from there for like $3. I actually took the tag off so that it would be more presentable when I turned it into the used book place. But I am just not interested in this anymore. And this was another instance of, I looked it up on Goodreads, but it had better reviews. It had on average like a 4.24 star review, but it was just, I was just not interested. It felt very derivative. It just didn't interest me, and I don't want to read it. So it's going. Then next is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I scored this for free when somebody was cleaning out their office at my college. I am getting rid of this one because I bought it when I wanted to be quirky, and I never read it, and it was Damned by Chuck Palahniuk. To tell you the exact reason why I bought this book, and I swear to God I am not joking with you, is, oh boy, this is opening the vault. When I was in middle school, I was a Degrassi stan to the point of obsession. But specifically, I was obsessed with Eli and Claire, mostly because I projected onto Claire a lot as like the smart goody two-shoes that everybody hated. And Eli was like this smart bad boy who got her. And I wanted that as a relationship. That pairing on TV was the blueprint for my obsession with Dramini, Draco and Hermione, because literally the same thing. Smart bad boy and goody two shoes girl. I don't talk about canon, only fan fiction. Also, Olivia Blake wrote the best Hermione fan fiction on this planet, and you cannot convince me otherwise. Also, see Isolated by Bex Chan and Manacled by an author I don't know because I haven't read it yet. It's on my very long list of things to do. But anyway, before Olivia Blake was writing the Atlas 6, she was writing Hermione fan fiction, and she was the best fucking bitch at it. Anyway, Chuck Palahniuk. I bought this with my money because I was trying to be an intellectual, and in Eclair fan fiction, it was noted, and this may have been noted in the show, but Eli was a massive fan of Chuck Palahniuk. He also wrote Fight Club. So I don't know why I thought I was like this edgy bitch, but I bought this with my own goddamn money because I was like, ooh, I'm going to be edgy and like read the books that this character on TV that I likes because I'll probably like it. No, I never cracked this book open. I have owned it for many years of my life, and it's going. That is the end of the fiction section. We are now moving on to the academic section. This just seems like a cruel joke, but clean hands save lives. I don't remember how I got this, but it has 4 words by the, at the time, director of the World Health Organization and the World Health Organization patient safety envoy. This book was published to be copied and distributed free of charge, meant to be as a teaching tool for people for public health classes, but it discusses the innovation of sanitization and germ theory and how washing your hands quite literally saves lives, which now, after a global pandemic, feels like a cruel joke. Another book that feels like a cruel joke after a global pandemic is I was given this book is Flu. This book was given to me by a friend, and in hindsight, maybe I really should have read it because now I'm looking at the back and it sounds kind of interesting. But when I was in school, I was getting my other bachelor's degree in public health with a concentration in infection control. So I know a lot about infectious diseases, and I linked this to my anthropology degree by looking at how infectious disease affects people and how it can affect the human bones and body because I was interested in bioarchaeology. And anyway, enough nerd shit. This is a historical recount of the 1918 Great Influenza pandemic from the perspectives of fictional accounts of what could have what happened. A recipe book because I didn't know how to make risotto and I still don't. And then lastly, these are all books from my anthropology degree. Some of them are from grad school, some of them are not. This is At Home in the Street by Tobias Hike. This was from my Anthropology of Childhood class. It was one of the best anthropology classes that I took when I was in undergrad, despite it being a cultural class, and I was a archaeology and biological anthropology girly. I had to take a cultural elective, and this was the one that I took, and I am still very close to the professor who taught me this class. But At Home in the Street details the lives of street children in northeast Brazil and how they survive, how a lot of them either have parents that are not around because of jobs or how the children need to work themselves, and what street life is like for impoverished children in Brazil. It was a very, very good and insightful read. If you are interested in reading that kind of thing, I would highly recommend it. This I read, I believe, in grad school. This is Making Refuge, Somali Bantu Refugees in Lewiston, Maine by Catherine Bestman. This is about a instance of Somali Bantu refugees that found a home in a very remote part of Maine and detailed their integration and acclimation into that very small town, especially in a climate that they were unadjusted to. And they actually quite flourished and made a large Somali community up there that is still prevalent. The book answers a lot of questions about relocation and displacement of refugees and how the community can help them acclimate. So to have a model to help people be welcomed into a community is a very good thing to have, but it also discusses change of identity and how acclimation doesn't mean that you lose your cultural identity. Another very good pick. Next, this one is much shorter. It's Cuban Color in Tourism in La Lucha. I read this also in grad school. I think this is an ethnography concerning American tourism in Cuba and how colorism plays into how people are treated by American tourists. This really short ethnography and others like it is a big reason why I don't feel comfortable going on vacation or on cruises that go into the Caribbean anywhere in the Caribbean. This book shows how tourism basically reestablished racial apartheid in Cuba by bringing in lighter skinned Cubans into these tourist areas and how that can affect what jobs you can have around those big city centers. This ethnography details how race, class, and gender can affect your occupation and therefore your financial standing, and shows how poverty is institutionally racist. It also kind of gave you an idea as the American tourist going into these touristy places and almost how it's walled off from everything around the rest of the country, and how inside the walls it's almost like this utopia, and outside it's people who are excluded from working in that space, but also people who are excluded from benefiting from the money that is made in that space. That's why I am uncomfortable with feeding into that system. Next is The Trobrianders of Papua New Guinea by Annette B. Weiner. This book is a revisiting of the work by Branislaw Malinowski, who is kind of one of the big names in the origins of cultural anthropology. He did some ethnographies on the Trobrianders of Papua New Guinea, and a lot of his conclusions kind of led to some generalizations about Aboriginal people. So Annette B. Weiner seeks to go back and revisit Malinowski's work to discuss where Malinowski went wrong and the things that he misinterpreted and misgeneralized. This seeks to right the wrongs of our past scholars. What you learn in anthropological theory is that these old white dudes were racist as fuck. And not only were they racist, they brought that racism into a lot of their work that then becomes funneled down and trickled down into later works that we have to correct and go back and say, thank you for creating the foundations of our field, but you did this wrong. It's okay to say that something was a product of its time, but it's also okay to say, now let's go correct it. This is just a paperback of a bunch of journals all put together. It's the Anthropological Journal of European Cultures, volume 25, issue 2 from 2016. I don't know how I managed to get that. And then the last book, this one I got from grad school, and I read the entire thing, which was this saying a lot for me. But The Last Whalers by Doug Clark. This ethnography details Doug Clark's experience where he spent 3 years in the far Pacific with the Lalamarian tribe, which are known to be the last group of hunter-gatherers that survive on whales for subsistence. What he seeks to do is capture a culture that is on the verge of extinction, because a lot of what we have found as anthropologists, cultural and linguistics mostly, is that when the world becomes closer together, a lot becomes lost. So it's up to us to go detail those things that are on the verge of becoming lost. As far as linguistics go, this means compiling databases full of vanishing languages that don't have many speakers. A lot of indigenous American languages fall under this category, as well as, I know because we read it at some point, but some indigenous Siberian languages. Basically, this book is detailing an endangered way of life, and Doug Clark is seeking to memorialize it into this book. I also highly recommend it. I hope that the discussion of the academic books wasn't too boring, but if you stuck around, I hope that you learned something and that you got a couple of recommendations for some more like nonfiction or ethnographical books that you would be interested in reading. They're books that I read because of school, not because they were a part of my field of interest. Like these books right here are all in my fields of interest. I have like Art Through the Ages and Archaeology of Ancient Greece and Archaeology of the Night and over there. So those are my more the academic books that are in my field that I will be keeping, because they were a lot of money. So anyway, that is all for me today. Sorry, please ignore my my closet. It fell the other day, so I had to replace it. So the replacement will be coming in soon, but I'm loving my new little setup here. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.